What's happening, good people? Your good man, Tone Space. I was playing this song I have called Every Day in parentheses, that cause and effect thing. Rather, it's that cause and effect thing in parentheses every day. I find myself to be the best storyteller that has ever blessed hip hop, or that hip hop has ever blessed anyone's ears. Better than Slick Rick, better than Nas, better than all of them. I'm gonna explain why in this video right here. You see these notes on the side right there. Don't read them joints yet. We're gonna walk through this. I want y'all to walk with me now. I was playing this song for the homie Damien. I did this song in 2005, right? Now, me, I loathe explaining my lyrics. I love subtlety. I think there's a certain artistry in just letting your shit rock. Just dropping some stuff and letting other people figure it out. But being that the song is 13 years old, I figure, all right, it's about that time I break this joint down. So this is that cause and effect thing every day explained, right? So I want y'all to walk with me on this, and you'll see why I'm an amazing storyteller. All right, here we go. I'm going to break it down lyric by lyric along with the text that you see on the screen. So let's get busy. Check it.
This type of shit, it happens every day.
Walk with me now. Yeah. Tone Space. Taking you on a little psychological journey right here. Check it out. Just that old everyday shit that happens, you know. Keep it. Listen close. Remember Courtney from the other story? Well, a bit before her math teacher murdered her, but after she started selling ass, she was working for Jack.
All right, now I start by saying, remember Courtney from the other story. That's in reference to a song I did previous to this one called Courtney, where I talk about a hooker that gets murdered, right? So this is kind of like, this story begins as kind of like a little more into a story that I actually told before. And, you know, you could read along. Courtney, hooker that gets murdered in another story, pimp named Jack. So remember that. Let's go on.
Was getting all the cash in her purse, but the cat went against the grain first from the start. When he let her in his heart, used to spread her legs apart before work. After dark, back to Courtney though. Pretty black thing turned to a corny hoe. Her parents kicked her out the house for giving up the drawers, but though she started stripping for a dime, she could make a living. Her world needed management. That's when she let the pimpin', hitting cars up in alleyways, a star in the scallyway. Seems like all that a mouth can say. There's this abandoned house, dirty and creepy, where Courtney used to put on fuck fest. Word it was free with faded chalk lines from floor to floor. The looks of it was all bizarre.
Okay, we skipped a little bit ahead. Okay, so Jack had sex with Courtney Raw, right? Now there's this abandoned house that she used to, you know, do her thing at, her hookering at. You know what I'm saying? She'd meet her custies up in the house and get busy. Let's go on. It was like an abandoned house, but it had like a weird, creepy feeling. So let's hear more about this house that Courtney used to do her thing at.
No torture chamber with weapons nobody saw before. While she be bending her, ask for some cash, you can hear screams in the hallway, the sound of a massacre near. Asking her tricks if they hear it, but they never did. She would see flashes of flashes and 7 tits. It could have been the coke line, she just they weeded the most. Apparitions of 10 women, she would see them as ghosts. One spoke telling her this is the life you should stay away from. Believing these spirits mentioning for you to not get straight. She was
Believing these spirits mentioning for you to not get straight dumb. Verbally, it's a little construed what I was saying, but I was basically saying this woman, she'd be in this house doing her thing, had a creepy, eerie feeling, and she would get spiritual visions of violence, right? And apparitions would be trying to tell her, like, look, this thing is wrong. Now, I kind of messed up. I said there were pics of 10 women crossed out on the wall. That is incorrect. That does not happen in verse 1, but she sees visions of like 10 different people or whatever, or victims, so to speak. Something was weird going on in that thing, right? So we're gonna go on.
scared but didn't listen. So what happened to Courtney? I said in the beginning. Details I say in another story. Like
This type of shit,
yeah.
this type of shit, it happens every day.
Like
This
every
type of
day.
shit,
Yeah.
this type of shit, it happens every day.
Every day.
This type of shit, it happens every day.
It's like
This
every
type of
day.
shit, this type of shit, it happens every day.
The night before the wedding, Jessica's nervous but happy. Such a sweetie. After all, how many virgins get married?
Okay, verse 2, we're introduced to Jessica. totally separate thing now, right? We were introduced to Jessica in verse 2. She's a virgin and she's about to get married. Let's go.
Age 25 with true love, it happened at last. But the dark side, she didn't know her man secret past. Now he's a good dude that made a few mistakes, but he learned from it. The burning truth is sometimes some errors are permanent. He used to be a pimp. He did some time and soul searching. Found he wasn't cold enough, so inside he was hurting. It was something that he read while I felt that would make him go straight. A book of tales from a survivor of rape.
Okay, the dude, her fiance, was a dude that changed his life. He was in prison, he was incarcerated for whatever, and while incarcerated, he read a book, a touching story about a woman that survived a rape experience, because he used to be a pimp and all that. So that made him change his life. And that's when he met Jessica, fell in love, and so on. All right.
Was released, went to college, got a job, now he's working. Found his love for Jessica was unlike any other person. Now, we could fast forward to their honeymoon night. A girl that saved herself and waited for this wonderful night. Newlyweds consummating their love, it was romantic. Some real candlelit, watch the stars slow jam. Shit, as the years went by, they were on top of the world. Bought a house, now Jessica's about to have a new girl.
Okay, so Jessica and her fiance, they get together, they get married, they're living a great life, and she gets pregnant.
Then her husband by the day was getting sicker and sicker. Stomach feeling like his liver took a river of liquor. In the hospital, he made his last days to his home. When the doctor told him that he had AIDS full blown, Jessica cried when he talked, and the truth came to light. All Jack could think before he died is what he did to his wife.
All right, as the years went by, her husband ended up getting sick. Come to find out, her husband had AIDS, and right before he died, Jack, her husband, is like, what did I do to his wife and his, seed that she's harvesting? So we find out that Jack, that Jessica fell in love with, was the same Jack from verse 1 that was fucking with Courtney, hitting her raw dog and all that other crazy shit. Huh? Keep in mind, the name of this song is That Cause and Effect Thing. There's a reason for that. All right, let's continue to verse 3.
This type of shit. This type of shit, it happens every day. This type of shit. This type of shit, it happens every day.
Every day.
This type of shit, it happens every day. This type of shit. This type of shit, it happens every day.
1970, we're taking it back. So follow me, yo, Jimi Hendrix just died and Paul McCartney left the Beatles. What they never told you about with Sarah, who was after a career as an actress, hoping some big wigs would grab her.
Now, we take the story all the way back in verse 3 and we meet Sarah. 1970, we meet Sarah, who is an aspiring actress and model. And, yeah, let's go on.
She met this movie producer, at least tried to show he was. With doctored up credentials, Sarah ain't even know he studs. He put her on the modeling and promised her more. Guaranteed she'd hit the top if she starts at the floor. The picture started with her covered on her chest and the dress. As the weeks went by, she posing less and less.
Okay, so Sarah meets this movie producer that she didn't know was a scumbag at first, but she gets with him and he promises that he'll put her career on, but he wants to take pictures of her scantily dressed and everything, right? So she ends up posing in less and less as she goes on and keeps working with this supposed movie producer, right? Let's continue.
This dude would pay her though, said if she lost the top in her bra, that those pictures would bring her to be a Hollywood star. One day, Sarah went over to his house for some business. He was offering her drinks, passed her weed and said hit this. She refused, then he grabbed her by her throat with a knife. In his hand, pressed her to the wall and threatened her life. First she struggled, then he stabbed her in the stomach and made her take the panties down, his blood dripping, forcefully raped her. She was screaming till she passed out from horror and shock. Awoke locked inside a basement, the worst part of the plot. With these devices of torture and bodies laying decaying. Several pictures on the wall of naked ladies displaying.
All right, so as the story continues, one day movie producer invites her over to the crib, offers her trees, drugs, or whatever. She's like, no. So he ends up stabbing her. He ends up raping her. She ends up passing out, and she wakes up in a strange room with a bunch of weapons and torture devices everywhere and everything. And she sees like pictures of these 10 women, right, on the wall. Let's go.
About 10 different girls that were crossed out in red and matching bodies on the floor. Some were without their head, Gave up on acting, it all comes from the terror. Started writing and the book becomes the #1 seller. Like
This type of shit.
All right, so she sees these 10 women crossed out in red, pictures on the wall, some were decapitated. She ends up killing the guy. She ends up surviving this assault and this rape, and she writes a book about her experience, and the book becomes a #1 seller. How does this connect? The location of Sarah's rape and violence is the same location where Courtney from verse 1, decades later, used to, do her hookering and stuff at and fucking dudes and all that stuff. And it's referenced by the 10 women that were crossed out in verse 3 are comparable to the apparitions of 10 spirits that Sarah saw trying to warn her like, yo, fall back from this. This is not the life for you. And it also connects to the story that I wrote previously to this, where I talk more about the woman, Courtney, and her experience and how she dies and everything. So this actually goes more into the story of that. But verse 1 connects to verse 3 like that. Also, the book that Sarah from verse 3 writes that becomes a #1 seller is the same book that Jack from verse 1 and from verse 2 reads in prison. When verse 2, where Jack reads that book in prison that changes his life, where he meets Jessica to end up marrying her and doing all that, that's the book that Sarah wrote from the 70s, decades earlier. And as we also know, Jack, who ends up fucking marrying Jessica, he ends up getting sick, dying of AIDS, all due to his relation with Courtney the hooker from verse 1 and hitting her raw dog. So I've never seen anyone do a story like that. I think I'm amazing. I'm just doing this to suck myself off. I'm a genius. It's great. And I do a lot of rhymes like that. I have a lot of encoded messages. I be Da Vinci coding the heck out of my lyrics and stuff like that. But you're rarely going to hear me explain it. This song is 13 years old. My man Damien heard it. I broke it down to him. He was like, yo, you got to tell people about this one. So that's it. It was just a suck myself off fest and to let you guys know I'm an amazing being. All right, later. Oh, yeah, real quick. This also ties in because I'm dropping this album that I did this on. It's called Future Man. It's going to be on iTunes, Amazon, Google, Tidal, Spotify, all that fly shit very soon. So check for that. All right, later.